And we kind of lose sight of this with our battles, but much of what we enjoy today, what we have today, are because of progressive movements.
Bill, could you move over here, because the people that are filming this can't film against the light.
The light behind you sort of.
Yeah.
Much of what we have today, much of what we enjoy today, is because of progressive movements, like the labor movement, the women's movement, the civil rights movement, and I can go on and on. And these movements are under attack, and we know that. And that's not a fluke, because what happened in Maine this past election was a prime example. It was stolen from us. It was usurped by a lot of foreign money, as well as out-of-state money and interests that were not the interests of Maine people. And now they're moving into the second phase of this attack, in terms of continuing to attack immigration rights, civil rights, the NAACP, and labor rights. And I want to talk to you briefly now about a briefing paper that most of you should have, and anybody who doesn't, I'll be happy to give them a copy after my remarks. All right, and this deals with an issue called right to work. And I want to impress a few things upon you and highlight what's contained in our briefing paper, okay, because you will be hearing about this. There were 5 attempts in Maine's history since 1947 to adopt the so-called right to work law. And currently, there is another effort in this session of the legislature. And we suspect and know that it also is being initiated by our government. Okay? And the briefing paper you have, produced by my office, is a public policy analysis of this issue called The Truth About Right to Work Laws. Okay? The term right to work is extremely misleading. Its focus and its purpose is on lowering wages, restricting the rights of workers and their unions, and weakening the long-standing principles of free collective bargaining in the United States. Despite its name, and I want you to really focus on this, right to work does not empower workers, it doesn't guarantee a job, it doesn't guarantee equitable wages, doesn't guarantee decent working conditions, or protect the rights of workers. What it seeks to do is to undermine the ability of labor and employers to bargain freely over a very important collective bargaining issue, and that is known as union security. Through the collective bargaining process, both unions and employers negotiate union security provisions, which essentially say that those who benefit from a collective bargaining agreement should pay at least their fair share for the cost of that representation, which is expensive. It's expensive to bring in negotiators from an international union along with the existing union and negotiate a contract, which often takes many months, sometimes many years, and then it's even more expensive to maintain that contract. So what unions democratically do with their members, and with the approval of the employer who ultimately has to ratify that agreement with them, is to negotiate a union security clause which ensures that everybody, at least in the union, or benefiting from the union's representation, pays their fair share through union dues. If adopted, a right to work law does one thing and one thing only. It takes away that right. It takes away the right of labor and management to negotiate any kind of union security provision whatsoever. Now, here are the repercussions of what happens when a right to work law is passed. Because there is existing data, and we talked about that in our briefing paper. First of all, a right to work law enables non-union employees in the bargaining unit to free ride, to enjoy all the benefits and protections of the union representation without paying a single dime. Okay? This weakens the strength and solidarity of the existing union. Studies have shown, for example, and we're documenting it in the briefing paper we're passing around here, that right to work laws undermine the overall wage and benefit gains not only of unionized workers, but of an entire state. Because that old line is a very true one. What unions gain, everybody else ultimately gains. Best example of that are fringe benefits. All right? How many of you have heard of, well, they're not lucky enough to be working 40 hours, so they're not entitled to fringe benefits. I got news for you. The only reason why fringe benefits exist is because of unions. There is no statutory obligation for an employer to pay a part-time employee or a full-time employee benefits. No legal obligation whatsoever. The only reason why they do is because of what unions have negotiated through the years, and that has set the precedent for all of us, both organized and unorganized. Government data also shows that the average right-to-work states have lower incomes, reduced wages, and higher poverty rates and levels than states that are not right-to-work, that are free bargaining states. Right-to-work laws also, and I wish the governor was in the room now, because I would love to debate him about this, right-to-work laws also hamper economic growth. For someone who is allegedly as concerned about stimulating economic development and economic growth in the state, he needs to know that. Okay? And again, the studies prove that. States that have adopted right-to-work laws tend to have and experience slower growth after adopting right-to-work legislation. And again, that's proven through the studies. Furthermore, a right-to-work law is not needed to protect non-union workers. Federal law already exists to protect the rights of non-union employees in unionized workplaces. Specifically, through the United States Supreme Court case law, workers cannot be legally required to join a union as part of a collective bargaining contract. And under another body of law, known as the duty of fair representation, unions are legally required to represent all workers covered by a collective bargaining contract, fairly, equitably, and responsibly, whether they belong to the union or not. And ironically, with the enactment of a right-to-work law, government essentially would be interfering with the rights of employers and unions to negotiate freely over a very important collective bargaining issue, union security. And I'll just end by saying, with Maine's workers and families already experiencing significant economic challenges in these very difficult times, such a law would jeopardize Maine's economic growth and would only give workers in Maine the right to work for less. Thank you.